There we go. Okay. So we have been talking for 8 weeks, something like that, about the Noble Eightfold Path, and we are going to finish that off tonight. So by way of very quick recap, the first teaching of the Buddha was the Four Noble Truths. In simple terms, the existence of suffering and the end of suffering. And one of those Four Noble Truths was the Noble Eightfold Path, which was the path to bring that to an end, bring suffering to an end. So we've just spent a number of weeks working through the steps on the path. What I wanted to do today was kind of wrap it all up and talk about, so where does it go and what's this really about? I teach two things: suffering and the end of suffering. So what happens as we move along the path, the Pali teachings are really, they're very much a graduated teaching. So it starts off with really basic stuff, generosity, moving from generosity into following the precepts. And once we're grounded in ethical behavior and some level of awareness is brought out of that, then the Four Noble Truths start becoming more real, and we start paying more attention to the Four Noble Truths in our life. So we're moving from the mundane to the transcendent, and we keep going, and we move to like even beyond the transcendent. So what happens as our practice matures and as the Noble Eightfold Path matures in our practice, they all converge. The 8 elements of the path unify. So right view, which is seeing things clearly, seeing things as it is, seeing suffering, seeing the Four Noble Truths, that starts to just become absolutely natural and absolutely omnipresent. We start just seeing suffering. We start seeing interdependence. It's not here, it's here. It just starts becoming really natural. Right resolve, right intention. Again, it just overlaps. The existing overlaps between the truths just continue to expand until they just converge. Right speech, action, livelihood. It just becomes impossible not to speak, act, and engage in the world without being grounded in right view and right resolve. And mindfulness and meditation, forgetting happens less often. We're just present more. We're just present and more stable. The practice just brings it all together. And so there's a teaching that shows up in a couple of places of the Noble Tenfold Path. Noble Eightfold and Noble Tenfold. It's there, I promise you. Go look it up. But this is not to say, well, if you've got 8, it's like the spinal tap.
Yeah.
Our amps go up to, they all go up to 10, our amps go up to 11. So it's not to hold these two as one superior to the other, but the 9 and 10, they're a useful way of kind of laying on top and looking at what happens as all of this comes together. So the 9th one is right knowledge. Right knowledge actually is not defined. I'm told it's not defined, and I haven't seen it defined anywhere in the canon. But what it talks about is the duties of the Four Noble Truths have been fulfilled. So, going back, the existence of suffering, there's the 3 turnings of the wheel. The first turning of the wheel is noticing the existence of suffering. The second is must be understood. The third is has been fully understood. The cause of suffering, the first time around is just to notice it. The second, it is to be abandoned. The third time around, it has been fully abandoned. So these are the duties that are associated with the causes. There's a sutra here which I'm going to gloss. That's the wrong one. Yeah, here we go. So what dharmas are to be comprehended through direct knowledge? Direct knowledge is, in the Zen tradition, you say just sitting, just eating, just seeing, just hearing. There is no cognitive interaction there. It's the direct experience of just the thing itself, the engagement of the sense with the object. So what dharmas are to be comprehended or understood through direct knowledge? The 5 clinging aggregates are to be comprehended. So right knowledge is the 5 clinging aggregates have been fully comprehended. The 5 clinging aggregates. This is made up of form, feeling, perception, fabrication, and consciousness. That has been fully understood, fully comprehended. There's no thought about that. There's no identification of a body in here, of a Gareth. There's just the 5 aggregates of clinging. What dhammas are to be abandoned through direct knowledge? Ignorance and craving for becoming. What dhammas are to be developed through direct knowledge? Tranquility and insight. And we've talked about this as the practice, the 2 ends of a magnet. Tranquility is settling, and as we sit and we settle, things become calmer, things become stiller. And the opportunity for insight starts to emerge. The opportunity to see things as it is starts to emerge. And as we start to see more clearly, the stories start to fade away. As the stories start to fade away, the opportunity to settle deeper. So these 2 work together. So developed tranquility and insight, that really is the path that we're working on. And what dhammas are to be realized through direct knowledge? Clear knowing and clear release. Release is the 10th. So right release, that is the 10th. Right release is unprovoked awareness release. What the heck does that mean? Release is just this complete letting go. Just not holding on to anything. If you want to think of a simple word to describe the end of the path, it is peace. It's just peace. Absolute peace. Awareness release. Awareness, there is awareness of peace, and there's nothing that's being held on to. It's not awareness of a thing, it's not awareness of a sensation, it's just naked awareness. And it's released from everything. Unprovoked, I will come back to unprovoked, I'll take a sidebar to come back to it. We've talked in concentration about the jhanas, which are these absorption states. So as we sit and we start settling in, things start to become calmer, sensory inputs start to settle down. At some point as we settle in, we can feel some forms of pleasure, even rapture, which can be like this kundalini rush or something really overwhelming joy. But that will go away, and the joy will fade away, but there's just this pleasure that stays, and at some point the voices, the stories will just stop. Talking drops off. At some point experience of the body just drops off. But as we work through this, so this is stepping through it. So the first one, settling in, remains in the first jhana. If he remains there, he is beset with attention to perceptions dealing with sensuality. That is an affliction for him or her. So there's this sense of sensuality. That sensuality is a place for clinging. That's a place for attachment. So noticing that we can get caught on sensuality, let go of sensuality. As we let go of that sensuality, enter the second jhana, beset with attention to perceptions dealing with directed thought, which is the internal conversation. So that is an affliction. It's a place where suffering can arise. And it's not the thoughts, it's identifying with the thoughts. So that there's a me with the thoughts. The thoughts are mine, the thoughts are me, I am in the thoughts are in me. We go on to rapture and then we keep going. Equanimity. Equanimity is an affliction. If you think and notice equanimity, that's something we fabricate. Beyond that, we get to form. The idea that there's a body, the idea that there's a form, this is a story. This comes out of causes and conditions. It arises, it abides, changes, goes away. To see this as a thing, to identify this as a thing, is to tell a story and to create an affliction. So letting go of all of these afflictions, unprovoked, is that which is completely unfabricated. Completely unfabricated. I'm going to make a huge leap here. The Bhagavad Gita, which is it's the most used scripture in the Hindu tradition, and the broad arc of the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna is a charioteer for the Pandava army, and Krishna, which is an avatar of Vishnu, one of the Trinity, is his charioteer. And so Arjuna, they're lining up opposite each other across the battlefield, and Arjuna says to Krishna, take me out to the middle here so I can see who we're about to go into war against. And he does, and Arjuna says, oh my God, I can't do this. That's my family, they're my friends, I can't do this. Oh, no, we can't, this is just immoral, I can't kill people. Better that I should die here than... Krishna then, the rest of the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's teaching essentially, and there's a lot in there, but the places I want to bring out are firstly the philosophical, if you will, teaching is of it's a Purusha and Prakriti of the words. This is Prakriti, this is like being, but Purusha is separate. And that is what is to be realized. And it's just not attached. So there's another one of my favorite sutras, which is also in here, is a story of there's a carcass, a cow, and a butcher skins the carcass, and then he severs all the muscles, all the tendons. So everything's separated, and then he puts it all back together again. Wraps the skin over the top. And the question is the analogy is that is this after release, because it looks the same, looks exactly the same, but it's not caught. It's not caught. So in the same way that this Hindu idea of Prakriti, which is this awakened, it's kind of God, right? But it's not caught up in this system. And that is what's realized is the self, what I really am, is this thing that actually isn't attached. It all sounds hairy and mystical. We get in here into consciousness without surface. Which is this awareness that doesn't land. It's just peace. It's just peace. Imagine a wonderful summer day and you're lying on your back in the sun, or you're floating in a pool without a care in the world. You've been on vacation for a week. It's time to let everything go. You're not going back for another 2 weeks. A week out you'll start to worry about going back. But you're in that wonderful place in the middle where you've left the world behind and you're not yet entering the world, and you're lying there You're in the pool, so your ears are kind of covered up, you're not hearing any noises. The water is cutting off all the sensory inputs. It's just kind of this very quiet, numb experience. The sun is beating down on you, you've got that warmth. It's just peace. But this unprovoked awareness release is there regardless of conditions. That which is experiencing it, when you're lying there in the sun, you're on the edge of recognizing, you're on the edge of recognizing, I am not this. That there's an experiencing here which is not associated with this. Doesn't deny the existence of this, but it's not associated with it. It's absolutely independent. And this is the path we've gone along, once we wake up to that, it's there when you're sitting and your legs are in agony. It's not your legs are in agony, legs are. It's like, okay, doesn't matter, because that's not me. It just doesn't matter. Peace is still there. So I'll read a little bit of something here and then I'll give another version of the same. With remainderless dispassioning and cessation of the 6 spheres of contact, which are vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and thinking, is it the case that there is anything else? Don't say that, my friend. With the dispassioning and cessation of these 6 sense spheres, is it safe to say, is it the case that there is not anything else? Don't say that. That there is and is not something else. Don't say that. There neither is nor is not. Don't say that, my friend. However far the 6 spheres of contact go, that is how far objectification goes. However far objectification goes, that is how far the 6 spheres of sense contact go. With the remainderless dispassioning and cessation, there comes to be the cessation of objectification, the stilling of objectification. So this comes up many times in different contexts, but another place it comes up is somebody asks the Buddha, so where does a Tathagata, which is what the Buddha called himself, where does a Tathagata go after he dies? Is it fair to say that the Buddha continues to exist after he dies? Don't say that. Well, does the Buddha not exist after he dies? Don't say that. Both exist or not, neither exist or not. Don't say that. It's the consciousness without surface. It's that which doesn't land, that which is outside time and space. Time and space are just constructs we make up. Space is a construct within which we see stuff. Objects exist in space. The space only shows up when we start putting objects in it. And objects are things we make up here. It's not that there's not stuff, but when we start forming it into objects, that's what we do up here. That's when space shows up. Time is the fabric within which we put events. When we start creating events, start seeing cause and effect, we start creating time. So it's just the fabric within which we stop and drop all these things. The experience that's described here and that is testified to by many people alive today is the reality of who we are is outside time and space. And this path takes us to that place outside time and space. And that is complete freedom. So this is about finding complete freedom. And in many Buddhist traditions it's very overt, and in all of them it is there, and at the very least implied, but it's very present, which is the idea of a bodhisattva. which is to be completely non-attached, to occupy, if you will, this physical form, to be in the world in this physical form, but not to be caught in it in any way, but to see suffering and to respond to suffering. So this is not to deny the existence of suffering in the world and the experience of suffering, and it is to leave room to continue to be in the world and to work with and alleviate suffering. But it's to be doing it from this place of complete non-attachment. So that is the end of the path, folks.